My name is Gregory Dixon. I'm one of the Telemark instructors up here at Mount Bachelor. I'm actually the Telemark trainer for Mount Bachelor and their staff, as well as for the Northwest Division of PSIA. I have been teaching Telemark skiing up here for 8 years, running the program, developing all the training that we have and the Telemark programs we have for the general public. Most people that we get up here for Telemark lessons typically have some background, whether it's alpine skiing, cross-country skiing, or snowboarding. We do get very few people that actually come up and Telemark without having any other snow sport experience. So typically, a progression that we would use for a beginner telemarker would be to get them basically just being able to stop and do parallel turns like you would in an alpine stance. The progression is actually very similar to alpine. Once you can do parallel turns, the next step from there would be to get people comfortable in what we call the Telemark movement or Telemark stance, being able to sink down in between your feet and center yourself in between 2 feet, which is the basics of the Telemark movement, is that centering, because on free heel gear you need that stability. Once you've demonstrated the stance and the stability that the stance provides, the next step is showing a movement from one Telemark stance to the other, typically in a straight run, so students aren't concerned with speed control so much, but just being able to center themselves from one stance to the next and making it a smooth, continuous motion the whole time. Once you feel like you've gotten a stable Telemark stance, the next step is to maybe try it in a traverse across the hill, shuffling from stance to stance as you're going across the hill. Once you feel like you're pretty stable doing that, the idea is to incorporate the Telemark in the middle of the turn. And ideally, it's not the Telemark movement that's creating the turn, rather just transitioning from one set of edges to the next. And the Telemark movement happens in the middle of the turn. Typically, the hardest thing for beginner telemarkers to master is the balance of the Telemark stance. Ideally, in a good Telemark stance, you want to be centered in between 2 feet, and trying to stay centered while in motion is very difficult. So it's very often that you get people who can slide down the hill and get down all right, but they're never really in a really stable centered stance continuously. Telemark skis these days, at least modern Telemark skis, are not that different from alpine skis. A lot of ski companies use the same molds and footprints from their alpine to their Telemark equipment. The big difference is Telemark skis tend to be made with lighter weight materials to make it more friendly in the backcountry, and they tend to be a little bit softer because the equipment, the Telemark bindings and boots, isn't as rigid as an alpine system. The skis need to be a little bit softer typically, though a lot of people who are fairly aggressive Telemark skiers will often mount alpine skis with Telemark gear, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just tends to be sometimes a little bit too stiff for the equipment. Modern Telemark boots differ from modern alpine boots for only a couple of reasons. The main thing is they have a bellow that bends at the toe. It gives you a little more range of motion, a little more flexibility. Most Telemark boots also have a walk mode, making them easier to travel in backcountry conditions. And they also, again, tend to be made from more lightweight materials for backcountry travel. Telemark skiing has actually been documented as one of the fastest growing sports in North America right now, mainly because of people's desires to get into the backcountry and go out to where there's less crowded slopes. But definitely Telemark skiing is one of the most difficult disciplines on the snow. I've taught snowboarding, alpine, and Nordic skiing, and telemarking just takes a little extra sense of strength and balance that is hard to achieve sometimes.